In the aftermath of the Second World War, hostility, not surprisingly, abounded. In an effort to rekindle old friendships and build new ones, French President Charles de Gaulle conceived of a series of televised games, originally played between the French and German youths, but quickly enlarged to 20 European nations over the following 2 decades. Known as Sans Frontières, Games Without Borders, these were not your usual competitive sports. Since the purpose was building bridges, not new rivalries, the games were deliberately silly, with contestants, mostly university students, dressed in giant lurid costumes, performing weird and wonderful tasks. In 1978, for example, competitors wearing horned helmets had to race in large honeypots and try to grab soup ladles. The Anglophone version in Britain and Australia was called It's a Knockout, and there have recently been proposals to revive the Games under the title Eurovision Super Games. Although people laughed at the Sans Frontières, it had a serious purpose. As the name suggests, it sought to break down barriers and demonstrate our common humanity by having a laugh together. Unlike sports that are only fun to watch if your own country is winning, and we expect Professor Campbell to now root for Australia against the British Isles, these games can be enjoyed by all sides because, at the end of the day, how well you can grab a soup ladle in a honeypot dress isn't much of a reflection on your national character. Dear graduates, your university studies may sometimes have felt as ridiculous as honeypot races, as you sprinted to the finishing line, submitting your assignments 1 minute before they were due, or jumped hurdles like making class presentations on strange subjects of which you knew very little. I hope you've been able to laugh at yourselves amidst the seriousness and stresses of study. I trust too that you've made some enduring friendships and learnt knowledge and skills to apply usefully in the future. But why does it matter? The university crest has a Bible opened to the words In principio erat verum. These are, of course, the opening words of John's Gospel in Latin. In archi en ho logos, in the original Greek, or in the beginning was the Word, in English. From this verse comes the name of your unique core curriculum, the Logos program. Harkening back to our Book of Origins, these words tell us that behind all of creation is an eternal idea, or word, or love song, sung from all eternity by the Father, and sung in time to us as Jesus Christ. So close to Christmas, we look forward to Mary bringing forth her child, this Word made flesh and blood, fresh and baby. Yet another way of viewing Advent is as a season of God speaking into the ears of Mary and Joseph, of shepherds and kings, and of all the world. To speak the divine reason, argument, logos, or love song, first through a newborn baby's cry, and in due course through the sublime words and deeds of the young man, Jesus. Tonight, that young man's miracles of healing the crippled, blind and mute, and of feeding the multitude, serve as a reminder that as you strike out on your own, you do not strike out alone. When St. Matthew writes in our Gospel tonight that the crowd praised the God of Israel, he's making it very clear that Jesus wasn't preaching words and working signs to impress the Jews, but inaugurating a new reality in which all peoples could be united in praising the one God. That would prove a more powerful glue than any comic games. Jesus makes it very clear that truth and love are borderless, directed to building bridges, not walls, relationships, not rivalries. And his view of truth and relationships offers so much more than postmodernity's knowledge as power and relationships as you scratch my back and I scratch yours. In preaching to the crowd, Jesus points to a logos that will enlighten and nourish the mind. In feeding that crowd, he preempts a Eucharist that will unite and nourish the soul. In our Gospel story tonight, we encounter a God so driven by compassion and generosity that the people receive more than enough to feed their bodies and souls. Extra baskets full so they can in turn feed others. That extravagant overfeeding, like happens regularly at Middle Eastern dinners, just ask the Lebs, is described also by the prophet Isaiah in our first reading. And that points, I hope, not just to the scale of the after-parties following your graduations, but to your minds and hearts being so well nourished at university that you'll be ready to feed humanity thereafter. Advent looks forward to a time when people will no longer cry out, "We are hungry," whether for material food or more intellectual. A time when the world will no longer be divided between haves and have-nots, overfed and starving, educated and ignorant. It's the promise of a world without borders and an aspiration for each of you in your lives post Notre Dame. Some here tonight are believers, some non-believers, and many still searching. But the message of Jesus, whose God of Israel is for all humanity, like the message of the Dieu sans frontières, is that even these distinctions can be bridged by truth and love. It reminds us that success is not ultimately to be measured by the number of letters after your name, or the careers and salaries those letters enable, or the properties and gadgets those salaries purchase, nor by sexual conquests, power exercised, or social media fans multiplied. Important as some of these things no doubt are. No, the Logos made man says truth and love are for more than this, for some higher things. Dare I say, for the making of heroes, of saints. Dear graduates, when you don your academic gowns, know that this is not just for photos and your own glory, but to declare something about human possibilities. The black gowns came from the medieval clerics, especially the Dominicans or Black Friars, who inhabited the first universities and wore black cloaks over their white habits. Black and white were their chosen colours because truth is black and white, and so is the writing that communicates truth. The communication of truth and love through every word and deed, that was their aspiration, and so, I pray, will be yours. My prayer is that your university experience has unblocked the eyes and ears and mouth of your hearts and fed your minds to overflowing. And I charge you with this mission. Take your newly minted degrees to whatever lies ahead, determined to see deeply and broadly and to make a real contribution. Congratulations, graduates of the University of Notre Dame, Australia. May God bless you and your futures.